So far, so good. Working hard. Just as scheduled. You know, so I feel pretty good about where they are right now.
You're, I guess, 2 weeks into this thing. I mean, what are you, especially from some others at Harvard, what are you kind of looking for from those guys in their development and kind of getting ready to
Yeah,
actually have to go in?
great question. Just like Frosty's looking for, can they make the appropriate calls and make the right decisions, and process the information as fast as possible as they're moving. Yeah, that's probably it in a nutshell.
I think in the spring, Logan talked that you were kind of working with some throwing things and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How is he in that area right now? And I guess, have you seen the progress and the mechanics and that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, the entire group did a lot of work since January, and I think I'd mentioned this before. Logan had lost all of that time last year, so we really never had a chance to get anything tuned up. So he's done a boatload of work, as all the guys have, in getting some of those small little detailed things ironed out. And yeah, I feel pretty good. I think he feels pretty good about where he is right now with regards to that particular part.
Mario, in the little two snippets that we've seen in practice, Heinrich and Masker have been working together.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do that all the way through or you mix them up, but
Yeah, we'll mix it up.
yeah, those two guys, because of the connection that they have, having gone to the same high school, is there a bond there where the older guy is teaching the younger guy maybe in a little bit more, in more of a way than what he had in the past?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think because of their connection, the fact they're both from Kearney, that probably adds something to it. Since it's been my experience since being here, as has been with all quarterback rooms, if you have a good culture, those older guys will help the younger guys regardless. And so that's been happening since Harvard got here.
What does Matt have to offer a guy like Heinrich? You think for Matt because of his experience?
Well, just from a playbook standpoint, in terms of his knowledge. So, when Harvard first got here, H squared, when he first got here, he knew that he could go to any of those guys if they had any questions, if I weren't available, or whatever the case may be. So they've made him feel really comfortable about that sort of stuff. So it's been good for him.
Obviously, you guys aren't getting hit, but how would you evaluate the ball security so far?
So far, it's been good.
A lot of talk.
But it doesn't count in practice. When it counts is during the game.
There's been a lot of praise for Adrian and teammates.
I don't do. I'm not. No, that ain't happening. What was that? What'd you say? I'm sorry.
What do you think about the way he's performed 11 practices?
He's been doing well. And a piece of that puzzle for him is, the work that Coach Lubes and Coach Casano, what they've done with the receivers and the receivers that we got in. That's just been a tremendous help. The guys that we got playing tight end and running back, it's just been good. I think Coach Frost feels really good about our talent level, and it's been showing up. Now, obviously, it has to transfer to game day. Those guys got to know their playbook and what they're doing, and so on and so forth. So,
How do you feel about the chemistry he's developed with a lot of those guys who've been in the program for a long time?
Adrian, particularly with the new guys.
With Samori and
Yeah, it's been it's been great because they did a lot of work in the offseason going all the way back to January. So those guys are always throwing. I know the quarterbacks threw as a group, just getting their own quarterback workouts in. But then they spent time with Omar and all those other cats during the summer. So it's been good. It really has been. But it's got to show up when? It's got to show up game day. Yeah.
We talked this spring, maybe on his podcast, about making some slight mechanical adjustments too. I mean, does that ever stop with a quarterback, or are they always sort of tinkering and trying to?
No, I think probably what he was talking about, if you were to really drill down and ask him, it was the drill work that we had always been doing, but he started in earnest in January. And so, when you do that, it just feels like we're just going for a walk. The ball just comes out of your hand. You don't even think about it anymore. So, yeah, the ball just becomes an extension of your vision in terms of where you want it. So I think that's what he was talking about in terms of his work.
With Heinrich, you talked about, I think Ross mentioned a couple weeks ago, the sort of, fire hose mentality of all this information that the players have to process, and in particular him. How
Yeah.
have you seen him try to, get ahead of that curve, and where is he in that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and typically that'll show up when a guy is playing slower than he probably should in terms of athleticism, That he started getting faster with his feet and going through his progressions towards the end of spring. He was much more comfortable, and that's starting to show up now. He's starting to play faster, quicker.
Over the years, we've asked you all manner of depth chart related questions. Ideally, do you have a clear number two? Is it possible that in X situation it might be this guy, but maybe in a different situation somebody else?
The competition for that position is still, as Frosty has mentioned, is still going on. Yeah.
One step up beyond that, Logan was just saying that he's not just pushing for that number 2 spot, he's pushing for Adrian's spot.
I hope so.
For this group, as far as how they're competing with one another, not just for that
Sure.
spot, but for
And it's a good group of guys, and they know how we are about that. We want them to compete, and they don't have to necessarily be goombas with one another, but they got to support each other. We're just fortunate that the group, they care for each other and they like each other, aside from supporting them. And so, yeah, that's how I want them, and how Coach Frost wants them to be, to compete. Yeah.
How has what you do changed maybe in the last, 20 years? Since you were at Rutgers to now, how is coaching quarterbacks maybe a little different than it used to be?
Well, I don't know that the equation that governs at least the throwing part of it is going to change. The ultimate, if you're talking about a behavioral objective that governs that, it's you want the quarterback to be able to generate maximal, optimal, final, linear velocity accurately, point blank, period. I mean, that's it. And so from that standpoint, the drills that you use to get that generated aren't going to change, really. But within the framework of each guy is a little bit different. And I guess that's the art of coaching the position. The way Heinrich is going to process information about XYZ isn't certainly the way that maybe Adrian or Logan or whatever is going to process it. You have to find out how that happens and how best can I as a coach facilitate to ensure that learning curve in whatever domain we're talking about is as steep as possible.
And is it frustrating to know that there are times that you might only have a year or two with a guy because he's got to leave? Is that frustrating? Because it happens. It happened with Tristan. It happened in your previous stop too. So
Well, I wasn't around Tristan very long, but I know exactly what you're talking about, Sam. I don't know if it's frustrating, but you get a guy tuned up. You get a guy tuned up and he's ready to play at a high level, and then now would he have been able to do that at any other place? I don't know that, but
that has to
because what we do in terms of the training of the position is pretty unique. So, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
have you had to?
I guess more than anything, it's a little bit disappointing. No, I'm gonna when they're here, man, I have an obligation because of Coach Frost in Nebraska football to coach the hell out of those guys the best I possibly can.
Coach, over the spring, there was always some talk about looking at maybe a transfer quarterback. What did you see from the spring and the offseason that said, you know what, let's ride up the guy that we have?
I think Frosty felt comfortable with seeing Heinrich. I think he felt comfortable with that, and knowing that the next piece of the puzzle was just getting him to understand the playbook and play fast and that sort of thing. Has always felt really good about Logan's decision making and his ability to play fast, and then it was just a matter of getting the stroke tuned up. So, I think he felt good about that.
Is there something like we've watched very little of practice, and Logan didn't get a ton of opportunities in
Yeah.
training. Is there something about his game that we and fans maybe don't know that you really like, that you get to see in practice, that if he goes out in a game we'd then see? Well,
I just know, like in spring, just working through some of those mechanical issues, I think Frosty made a tremendous point when you guys had talked to him. When you're thinking about those things, generally that makes it, something can sometimes make it worse, right? But it just takes reps and reps and reps and drill work and isolation drills to ensure that the ball just comes out of your hand like it's nothing. And he's pretty much at that point right now, you know. He's a slider guy, you know. It's like taking the comparison between John Elway and Joe Montana, let's say. John was a pretty big cat. He was always going to generate a little bit more thrust on the ball than Joe just because he was a bigger dude, you know, the mass piece of it. But Frosty feels good about where Logan is right now, and I do too.
In this analogy, Heinrich's John.
Pardon me?
Heinrich's John Elway.
Heinrich's a big dog now. He got some long levers and he's athletic.
Gotcha.
And he's hilarious. He's just
And he's what, 30 pounds from being where he's going to be, like his final.
in terms of what Coach DeVal and Dave Ellis had said, yeah, somewhere thereabouts. Yeah, and we just don't want him to lose his speed and quickness, but I suspect that he won't. And I think when it's all said and done, Logan will play at about 215 thereabouts, you know. But he's got the metabolism of a shrew, so he's working at it.
Have you ever coached somebody with as much athletic potential as Harvard?
Michael McMahon was really, really, really a talented young cat back at Rutgers, and he started for us as a true freshman. Just really, really had a tremendous gun. Was about a 4'4" guy in the 40, 6'3", 220, something like that. That's probably one guy that comes to mind, just boom, right off the top. Yeah.
Good.
Golden? Okay, see you guys.